Hey guys, today I'm going to show you how I made this really cute cushion using my scrap yarn because I had so much scrap yarn left over from projects, so I decided to make it into a cushion. I started by getting a 6mm crochet hook, and then I just made a large slip knot. And then I made a chain of 3 stitches. And this will count as 1 double crochet. So I then did 2 double crochets into that slip knot. So technically you will have 3 double crochets, but technically only 2 because one is chain 3. So then I chained 2, so 1, 2. And then I did 3 double crochets again into that slip knot. And I'm calling it a slip knot, but it's also called a magic loop. But I just prefer to call it a slip knot because it kind of makes it easier to understand. So once you've done those 3 double crochets, you're then going to chain 2 again. And then yet again doing 3 double crochets into that slip knot. So essentially you're wanting to do 4 lots altogether of the 3 double crochets into the slip knot and doing chain 2 in between each lot of 3 double crochets. So as you can see here, I just finished the 3 double crochets, so I then chained 2. And then I did a further 3 lots of double crochet into that slip knot. So once I'd finished all the double crochets into the slip knot, I then just pulled that loose end to close the hole. And to finish, I chained 1 and then inserted my hook into the first stitch of the kind of square, and then I did a single crochet into that stitch. And then I cut the yarn and tied a knot. And for the next row, I just grabbed this white scrap yarn, and then I again just did a slip knot onto the hook, but this time just a normal one. And I inserted my hook into the corner gap, so basically where you did those chain 2 in the first row, and then I did a chain of 3 into that gap. And then I did 2 double crochets again into that gap. And then I chained 2, so 1, 2. And then I did 3 more double crochets into that gap. So when I essentially had the 2 lots of the 3 double crochets into that gap, I then chained 1, and then I just found the next gap, corner gap of the square, and then I did 3 double crochets into that gap. And then I chained 2, so 1, 2 and then did a further 3 double crochets into that same corner gap. So again, once I'd essentially had 2 lots of the 3 double crochets with the chain 2 in the middle and then chained 1, and I continued to do the exact same on the rest of the 2 corner gaps. So basically just doing 3 double crochets, chaining 2, and then another 3 double crochets into the next gap, and then chaining 1, and then doing the exact same in the last corner gap of, the 3 double crochets and then chain 2 and then another 3 double crochets into that same gap. And to finish the square, you just do exactly the same as you did for the row before. So chaining 1 and then doing a single crochet into the first stitch of the white row, and then cutting the yarn and tying a knot. And then for the third row, I used a pink scrap yarn, and again I made a slip knot and inserted my crochet hook. And then I inserted my crochet hook into that first corner gap, and I did a chain of 3. And again, exactly the same as before, I then did 2 double crochets. And then chain 2, and then I did 3 double crochets into that same gap. And once I'd done that, I had finished the first corner, and then so I chained 1, and then I inserted my hook into that middle gap that you see, so not a corner one, but the other gap, and then I did 3 double crochets into that gap. And then I chained 1, and then I inserted my hook into the next gap. This one is now a corner gap, and then I did 3 double crochets into that corner gap. And then I chained 2, and then did a further 3 double crochets into that same corner gap. And then I chained 1, and then I did 3 double crochets into the next gap, which this time is a middle gap, so not a corner one like before. And I just continued this pattern the whole way around, so doing 3 double crochets into the middle gap, and then chaining 1, and then doing 2 lots of the 3 double crochets into the corner gaps, and remembering to do a chain 2 in between the 2 lots of the 3 double crochets. And again, to finish, I then just chained 1 and then did a single crochet in the first stitch of this row, and then I cut the yarn and tied a knot. And then for the next row, I got this light blue scrap yarn, and obviously making a slip knot and inserting my hook into the knot, and then starting on a corner gap. I did exactly the same as the rows before, doing a chain 3 and then 2 more double crochets into that gap, and then chain 2 and then 3 double crochets again into that same corner gap. And if you don't know how to do a double crochet, all you do is yarn over, insert your hook into the stitch, yarn over, pull up, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops, and then yarn over and pull through the second 2 loops. And the same as before, I chained 1 and then I did 3 double crochets into that first side gap. And then I chained 1 and then I did 3 double crochets into the next side gap. So I then chained 1 and started the corner gap. So for the corner gap, it's obviously the same as before, doing 2 lots of the 3 double crochets into the same gap and then doing a chain 2 in between the 2 lots of the 3 double crochets. So then I just finished the same pattern for the rest of the row. So for every corner gap, doing 2 lots of the 3 double crochets with a chain 2 in between the 2 lots of the crochets. And then for the side gaps, doing only 1 lot of the 3 double crochets and then doing a chain 1 in between. And as before, to finish, just chaining 1 and then doing a single crochet into the first stitch of the row and then cutting the yarn and tying a knot. So in total I did 12 rows for this granny square, and I did the same pattern that I just showed you. So I did 2 lots of 3 double crochets for every corner with a chain 2 in between each lot of the 3 double crochets, and then for every side gap I did only 1 lot of the 3 double crochets and then chaining 1 in between. So every time it will increase, so there'll be more side gaps, but obviously there will always be only 4 corners, so it's quite straightforward to know the ones that you'll be doing the 2 lots of the 3 double crochet, because you'll only be doing it 4 times for each row. And for me, I just used a different color of scrap yarn that I just had left for each row. And it was completely random, but I feel like the colors actually kind of went quite well together, so I was quite happy about that. So altogether I made 8 of these granny squares, and then I just put them all out on the floor to kind of line them all up, and obviously I did 4 granny squares for each side, and I just kind of organized them, the colors that I thought went best together, and then I just got a white scrap yarn as well, and I got a 5mm crochet hook, and I made a slip knot and inserted my crochet hook into the knot. And then I just began single crocheting all the squares together. So to do this, I just got 2 corners of the 2 squares, and then I just inserted my hook into the 2 corners, and then I just began basically, as I said before, just single crocheting each stitch of each side together. And to single crochet 2 stitches together, I basically just inserted my hook into both stitches of each side, like so, and then I just yarned over and pulled up a loop, and then yarned over and pulled through those 2 loops on my crochet hook. And I basically just crocheted the squares together so they made like a bigger square, if you know what I mean, out of the 4 squares. And then I did the exact same with the remaining 4 granny squares that I had left, so I stitched them together. So I had another big square, and then I just single crocheted those 2 big squares together. So I just got this like scrap cream colored yarn, and I made a slip knot and obviously inserted my 5mm crochet hook. And then again I just did the exact same as I did when I was single crocheting the small granny squares together. I just basically inserted my hook into both sides of the stitches, and then doing a single crochet basically to stitch them together. And I made sure not to crochet one side of the cushion, just so I could obviously insert the inside of it to just make it an actual cushion and not just the case. So as I said before, I left one side not crochet together, and then I just got the inside of like an old cushion that I didn't want, and then I just inserted it into the cover that I'd made, like so. And And then I just continued single crocheting it together, so just doing single crochet for the last side. And obviously at the end I cut the yarn and tied a knot, and then I just began weaving in all the loose ends to the inside of the case so you wouldn't see it. And once I'd done that, that was me finished the cushion, and I really hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you so much for watching.